Hey everybody, Jesse here for 3Prong Gaming, and in today's episode we are going to set up our overlap detection so we cannot place another building or mesh on top of anything else in the world. And a relatively easy process. We're going to create a couple material instances and set those so if it's overlapping we're going to change the color of our mesh. And let's go ahead and get this started. In the previous episode, we set it up to where we can place our mesh pretty much anywhere in the world. Now, if you remember, we did do this real quick where we had a camera glitch issue if we drug over our sphere here, but we don't have that now. However, there is still an issue, so we place the building in the world, drag over it, and we get the same thing. So let's go ahead and fix that really quick. So we need to open up our building master, all right? Go into here, and really all we need to do, we need to go to our static mesh, and we need to go down to our collisions, set this to custom, and then right here in the camera trace response we need to ignore the camera, and that should fix it. Let's double check. No, actually I know that should be right. Let's go ahead and press play. If we set our construction office out here, there we go. Now we can go right through it. Okay, so that's got taken care of. Get out of here. So let's go ahead and we can close the building master BP. Let's open up our ghost building BP. All right, we're going to set this overlap detection initially in our tick because it's going to have to constantly check to make sure that it's not overlapping something. All right, so let's create a new function. We'll call this check overlap. Hit enter. No inputs, but we need an output here. We will call this one overlapping. Keep it as a boolean, and let's go ahead and make it a pure function. Give us just a little bit of space. This is pretty easy to do. Just right click. Let's get overlapping actors. All right. So we got a filter class right here that we can select from. We can pretty much pick anything that we want, and it's going to output an array of actors that we want to check for. So ultimately, right at this point, we just want to make sure that any actors, we may have to come back and change this and create some custom filters for this, but actor for now will work just fine, which pretty much everything is going to be a child of the actor. All right. So go ahead and drag off of this. We need the length, hit that, and then we need to do a greater than integer. So if there is anything greater than 0, so if there's anything in this overlapping actor, then that's what we're checking. So we don't even need to run a branch in here. We can just take this, put it here. So if the length is greater than 0, it's going to return true, and if not, it'll return false. So we don't need a branch. We don't need nothing in here. That is it. That's pretty much our overlap detection right there. All right, go ahead and close that out. Now back in the event graph, what we need to do is go ahead and pull out our check overlap function here. Throw out a branch. This is, again, in the event tick. Right here, go ahead and plug this in. And if it's true, what we need to do now, we need to create a custom event. Let's go ahead and call this one set material. All right. Might get a little confusing. You name that something else because there is another function named set material. For an input, we need another boolean, and we will call this one is air. All right. We need to create another global variable or class variable and call this one is overlapping. Again, it just needs to be a boolean. So what we need to do on this is go ahead and drag is air out and check equal. Is it equal to is overlapping? All right, so if these are the same, we need a branch out here. Oops. If these are the same, then we don't want to do anything. Okay. Because we already know there is an error and it is already overlapping, or there is no error and it is not overlapping. So then we don't want to do anything. If these are equal, we don't want to do anything. So go ahead and drag off the false with the is overlapping. We'll set it in the false, and then we'll just set it to this is error. Just like this. Let's go ahead and move this up out of the way a little bit. All right. So just drag the is error into is overlapping. And then go ahead and run another branch right here. And plug this in. And then drag just straight off of there. All right. Now grab your ghost building mesh. Drop it in here. And we need to set material. This, don't grab the rendering. We need our, oh yeah, no, that we need to grab the rendering. So our set material. All right, we need the rendering one. We're going to need 2 of these, so just Control W, plug in the ghost building mesh right there. And if it's true, we'll go there. If it's not overlapping, we'll go there. But we have no material set up yet, so let's go ahead and do that really quick. Compile and save this. Let's go back out here. Now our building materials, we're just going to leave it. It's currently using the wall material. So let's go into your top level, create a new folder. Let's just call this one materials, and go down into the starter content materials. Like I said, it's using wall. So we're just going to stick with that for now. All this obviously is going to have to come back and change once we start setting up everything custom looks and materials. And then just drag and drop that into our new folder materials. And we want to copy it. We don't want to move it. All right, one asset copied. So now let's go ahead and jump into our material here. And let's rename this one ghost_M. All right, save it there. Now we need to open this up really fast. And the only thing we need to change in here is we need to go into, let's open this up a little bit. We need to change its blend mode from opaque to translucent. Then drag the alpha. This is RGB, red, green, blue, and this is the alpha. We need to drag the alpha into the opacity. Let's just hit apply and save it. Working in the actual material, in the parent material, takes forever. It takes forever to update, takes forever to save. So that's why it is always best, set up your base material, make sure there's parameters. See, this is what we got right here. I'm not going to get too in depth with materials on this one, but this is a parameter. These are actually all parameters, which means you can edit those values on an instance of this material. Would you like to apply? I said, yeah, I applied it already. Yes, apply it. Okay, and so now we need to go back out here. Control S, save that one. I don't know why I applied it and saved it. I don't know why it did. Oh, because I moved the node around. Oops. Okay, so right click on the ghost material and create material instance. This is kind of like making a child. All right, so we will actually just leave that ghost_M instance. We'll call that one. That one is just fine. And then we need to create another one. Right click on the main material, create another material instance, and we will actually call this one ghost air. And we can set up dynamic material instances. It looks like they changed a little bit. I got to play around with it a little bit more. I'm not too familiar. So eventually this will change. We can do this with just the one material instance. That's the whole point of making an instance is you can change it in the code. But yeah, like I said, I was trying to set that up for this, and it looks like they changed it in 4.9. So I'm not going to do that at this point. So go into your main instance right here. And then what we need to do is just open up the color, check it. And I'm just going to, I played with these values already. So I'm going to do 0.27, 0.27, and 0.27. And for the alpha, 0.75. See, notice how quickly it changed and updated. That's what's great about material instances, is they are instantaneous. All right, and then just save that, and that will be our base ghost material. And then come back out here to the ghost material instance 2, which it doesn't need to be 2. I need to get rid of that 2. To the air. All right, not right click it, open it up. And then for this one, again, open up the color. We're going to change the red value, just do it a 100.75. There we go. Save it. Go ahead and close this out. So now we got our materials. Jump back into the ghost building BP. So now if it is overlapping, we need to set this to the ghost air M instance. And if it's not overlapping, we need to set this to the ghost M instance, just like that. And that should almost be enough. If it is overlapping, go back up in here into the tick. So now if it is overlapping, true, we need to set material, call the function. We don't need the material rendering. Set that. We need 2 of these, Control W, and then plug that one into the false. So if it is overlapping, then we need to send is air true. If it's not, is air is false. So that should work. Let's go ahead and check it out. Go ahead and drop it in there. And there we go. Now you'll notice a problem here. See, now obviously we can still place it right there, but we'll handle that in a minute. But there's a couple problems here that you may have noticed. Let's go ahead and exit out of there and press play. Notice when we click it, we don't have our ghost material established, right? Even if we click it a second time, we still don't have it. It's not till we overlap it that we have that it actually sets it. And now it's constantly like that because remember, our ghost BP is persistent in the world. So when we set the material once, it's always going to be that material. So yeah, that's an issue right there. So we need to handle that. And the way I handled that, we can go ahead and collapse this down a little bit. We won't need that the rest of the episode. Is go up here into on spawn in the ghost BP. And at the end here, what we need to do is just drag off of this and do set material. Again, the function, the custom event that we created. Now we can just click is air. Let me show you what happens if we click is air. It should work just fine. It'll go in here because we're passing this because remember initially as soon as we click it is overlapping is false. So they're not going to be the same. So go ahead and push play. And there we go. See, we've got our material right here. But there's a problem. Let's say let's go ahead and set that into the world. Let's say that we're hovering over the material right there and we click on it. And oh sure, now it's going to make a liar out of me. Typically this doesn't work. Even in my testing, it doesn't work. All right. But what I did just to make sure is I take the is overlapping. Let's get this one. And then just do a not Boolean. All right. So we're kind of reversing this, which is ultimately doing this, but we're constantly checking on spawn if it is overlapping. I like how it made a liar out of me when I did that because it didn't do that in my testing before. Typically you had to move the mouse in order for it to update, but yeah, it's not doing that now. So there we go. And again, we can still overlap. So all we did was change the materials at this point. So let's go ahead and handle that and make sure that's saved. Go to your camera pawn controller. And in the left mouse button right here that we set up to place the building, let's just go ahead and open this up a little bit. Drag this build mode is active out. Let's go ahead and close that or disconnect that link. And we need to make this an and Boolean. So what we need to check here is we need our ghost building reference. Drop that in here, get it, and we will check for the overlap. And again, we need a not. So drag off of this and do not Boolean. So if it is not overlapping, if it is false, oops. There we go. So build mode active and not overlapping. And then we can plug that into the branch. And that should be it. That should be it. Cross your fingers, compile, save it, play it. Let's go ahead and we can place our mesh out there. Again, we got overlap, and I can't drop the building. Can you hear me clicking? There we go. And our overlap detection works. See, it's still overlapping our camera pawn, so that's not something we want. We can see it, but even if we make that invisible, it's still going to detect that. So let's go back into our camera pawn really quick, and I believe overlap detection is set up on that one. Select our sphere, generate overlap events. We don't want that. Unselect that. Compile, save it. Let's play it. Instruction office. There we go. So now we can place it right under where our mesh is at. Perfect. Yeah, that'll work. All right. What we're going to be doing in the next one, we're going to expand upon our overlap detection. Like I said, right now, it's just a pretty simple set material. It's pretty simple right now just for this overlap. But what we need to do now is, and in my original one, I set slope calculation, and I ran into a problem. I'll explain that a little bit more when we do the next episode. Most of the process, what we're going to do is the same, where I calculated the slope. So if there was a mountain or something in the world, if it was over a certain degree slope, it wouldn't place it down. But I ran into the problem with that, so I changed it up a little bit. It may take us 2 episodes to do the next one to be able to calculate that slope, because there's quite a bit of math involved in that one. But part of it's copy and paste, so it's not that big of a deal. But explaining it's probably going to take more than actually doing it. So yeah, 17 minutes into this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, go down and hit that like button. Check out one of those other videos that are playing on the screen. And until the next episode, peace.